Coach Matt, welcome back on the pod, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Look, we are going to be recording a few Q&A sessions. If, dear listener, you would like us to answer your questions live on the pod, then please shoot us an email, andy@ripbody.com. Ask your question. I'll answer it, frankly, over the email, but you may be selected to go more in depth on the pod. And so that's what we're going to do today. Now, because this is the first time we're doing it, I'm actually picking up 3 questions here, one of which was taken from the comments on the website, and 2 of the others from the email readers kindly emailing and asking questions. So to kick it off, Matt, should you adjust calories when deloading?
That's a really good question. And I would say no. And there are a couple reasons for this. The first one, the most practical one, I think that if you're trying to adjust your calories based on your activity level or just taking a week of reduced training, it just gets a little bit nitpicky. It's like trying to adjust every day based on how active you are. We just don't need to complicate it that much. And the second thing is with a deload, our main goal is to help you fully recover, get rid of any fatigue you've had, any lingering soreness. And if you reduce your food from what you've been eating, it's probably going to have a negative impact on your recovery. So we want to make sure you're eating enough to actually take advantage of the deload and fully recover.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. How about when bulking though? So I'm in a calorie surplus now, and my concern here is that, okay, let's stick with the calorie deficit. My concern is that by having a deload, I'll be burning fewer calories, and I'll also not be training as hard. And I know that training hard is the key to maintaining muscle mass. And so, well, if I don't train hard for a week, and I'm still in this calorie deficit, I'm worried that I may lose muscle mass because, that week I'm not training hard. So that's really the concern. And you didn't address that head on. Is that a valid concern here, would you say?
I don't think you have to worry about losing muscle. If you do a deload the right way, you're not just taking a week off of training. You're still going to be doing some training, just going to reduce the volume a little bit. Like we typically recommend you reduce your weight by about 10% and maybe do 1 fewer set. So you're still going to be training. It's just not quite as intense. And as long as you're eating enough to support it, which is why I would not decrease the calories, you're not going to lose muscle in a week of slightly reduced training.
And then let's think about the other way. So I'm in a bulking phase. I know that I need to be training hard and have a consistent calorie surplus when in the bulking phase in order to gain muscle consistently over that time. But I also have been told that I need to have deloads. They could be built into the programming once every 4 weeks, or they could be reactive deloads depending on the situation. That's a topic for another day.
Right.
But, if I'm continuing this calorie surplus and there's a week where I'm not pushing really hard with my training, is that not going to lead to unnecessary fat gain?
If you're doing things correctly, you shouldn't be in a huge surplus unless you're doing this crazy like dirty bulk. But even then, I think it's still a little bit nitpicky. Like you're not going to take the week off training entirely. It's going to be a slight decrease in your training volume. And we still want to make sure that you have enough food to recover. And if you're bulking and you drop your food, now you've lost a week of potential muscle growth. Like you're still going to be growing muscle while you're recovering during your deload week. So yeah, I wouldn't adjust. Would you do it differently if in a bulk?
No, I absolutely do the same there. My philosophy is it's way more important to keep up the momentum of what we're doing than it is to by adjusting based on any theoretical slight differences that may happen to fat or muscle mass mix over time. It's majoring in the minors, and that's not something that we want to do. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, frankly, to anyone. And this is not only for the recreational clients that we that we work with, but even for the bodybuilders. So those listening, you'll know that we work with recreational trainees here at RipBody. You'll know that my co-author Eric Helms and his team, they work with bodybuilders. So if you're a bodybuilder and you're looking to get on stage at your absolute best or get better placings, you want to be working with them, not us. It's a different demographic. However, on our Japanese side of the business, 70% of clients are bodybuilders. Now, I'm not looking after them. I have 2 coaches who are looking after them, but they do really well. We just last week, I didn't actually mention it, Matt, but one of the guys, he won the 2nd biggest competition in Japan. So that's fantastic. Another guy won the regionals, his regional, the prefecture, which is like the state, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we're flat out right now. And the point I want to make here is even for those guys, we do not make minor adjustments like this. We aren't messing with the calories on a deload week. We are of the opinion that keeping it the same is better for recovery. So yeah. All right. Next question. Over to you.
All right. Next question. I have an old shoulder injury that, while I'm pretty much recovered from, specific movements will irritate it, such as dips. Any alternative suggestions? I was considering push-ups to align with the consistency of a bodyweight exercise. So we're talking exercise selection. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this one. The point in having the dips in the program isn't that we want to be doing a bodyweight exercise there. It's that we want to be training the chest and triceps hard, mainly the chest. And so the point is not that we want to do bodyweight. The point is that we want to choose an exercise that allows for that. So that was one misconception that I want to clear up here. And this is essentially what I said to her. And I just want to share with you guys. So the principles of exercise selection are essentially this. We want to choose exercises that, 1, we can perform close to the point of failure. 2, confidently, which comes with practice, right? Because no one's confident with a squat the first time they squat, right? For example. 3, pain-free. 4, through as full of a range of motion as possible. Again, if we take the squat, just because you can't squat and have your arse touch your heels, which very few people can do, but you may see it on YouTube, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing the exercise, right? It's just as full a range of motion as possible. Number 5, somewhere in the 5 to 30 rep range, but ideally closer to the rep ranges that you see in the program, which is typically between 5 and 15, then you're good. Okay, so you want to choose exercises that we can perform close to the point of failure, 1, 2, confidently, 3, pain-free, 4, through a fuller range of motion as possible, and 5, somewhere in the 5 to 30 rep range, but ideally 5 to 15. That target the muscles or movement pattern that we want to target. Okay, that's key. Now, she was having difficulty with the dips. They're giving her pain, so she's right to change the exercise. She said specifically dips are causing pain, but push-ups weren't causing any issue. So there's something about the dips there. So we want to swap it for another exercise that trains the same muscles or works that similar movement pattern and follows those 5 rules that I've just said. So that could be body weight, free weight machines, free weight dumbbell, barbell. It really doesn't matter. We just want to choose the best tool for the job. And, people who can bang out multiple sets of body weight dips, they'll find that they can do far more than 30 standard push-ups. And that's the rep range that we really want to be in. If hypothetically we were constrained to to bodyweight workouts only, then the solution would be to make those push-ups harder by raising your feet or putting one arm straight out to the side, having a weighted vest, for example. However, we're not constrained to bodyweight exercises, right? We're not stuck in some kind of ideology here. So I would just simply choose something else. Any other horizontal pressing movement that causes no pain and fits all of those. So what could that be? It could be barbell bench press. It could be an adjusted push-up. It could be a seated machine press. It could be dumbbell pressing, slight incline, slight decline, whatever needs to be done so that there is no pain when doing that. If all of those are not possible because any horizontal pressing hurts, then I would consider getting on the fly machine and just seeing if that fly movement is okay. Because there may be something about, bending the arm back that's hurting, but the fly movement, you'll still be able to at least train the chest there. And then because you're not really getting any of the tricep work in there with the fly, you could add in potentially a couple of sets of tricep press stands, for example. And again, just seeing whether that causes any issues or not. And just continue doing that and keep on testing those dips until you're fine. I'm not saying that you have to get back to doing dips, but it's good to get to a point where you could do them if you wanted because you don't have any limitation. Now, I think, frankly, unless Sarah is absolutely like jacked as all hell and has been training for years and lean, given that she's a woman, she's unlikely to be able to bang out 3 sets of 8 of bodyweight dips. There are very few men that can do that, even those who have been training for a while. So what's quite possibly happened here is Sarah has seen it in the program. I'm not trying to suggest that Sarah was weak by any means. I'm just saying it's a very, very difficult exercise, especially for those who don't have a lot of upper body strength and aren't very lean. It's quite possible she's seen it, hasn't really done them before, has jumped onto the parallel bars, has done a few reps, potentially gone too low, and has injured herself because it was just too much. Now, of course, a better way of doing it would have been with an assistance machine. You get sometimes those chin-up assistance machines that also do the dip assistance machines, or by looping some bands around the dip bars. But of course, it's too late now. You've got on the bars, you've done your first dip. Oh shit, that's really difficult. Oh, something's happened and it's in your shoulder. Right. I've done it. We've all done it. We've seen other people do it. So you're not alone. Anything else you feel I missed there, Matt?
I think I would add, I was just having this conversation with a client who has the same thing, a shoulder injury. We're trying to find exercises that he can do. If you have access to machines or even if you don't, if you're using dumbbells, free weights, I wouldn't give up on something right away. Like dips, maybe that's not great, but if you try something else and it doesn't feel good right away, you can play with different hand positions, different angles. Like with the dumbbells, you can rotate your elbows a little bit. If it's like a leg press, you can try different foot positioning. There may be ways you can work with the machines you have, even if it doesn't feel good right away. And then the second thing I would say, depending on where in the program these dips are, if it's at the end of the program or like later on in the workout, if you're already warmed up and moving, it may not hurt that much when you're trying something new. So if you're trying something for the first time, I would just maybe go light the first time, see how you feel the next day. I've done this myself with a knee injury, and I tried a new leg exercise like at the end of the workout. I thought it felt great, so I pushed it pretty hard, and it was like a wreck the next day. Yeah. So yeah, just ease your way in. You'll know if it's the first thing you do, it's going to hurt. But like with dips, if you're deep in the workout, it might feel okay just because the muscle's warm, but you be careful with that.
Yeah, no, great piece of advice. In fact, just this morning, I'm testing out training my legs, and I'm still going really light because I had a day last week where I went fairly hard, and with machines, of course, because right arm isn't functioning now. And I thought I was fine. Then about 3-4 hours later, I thought I was back to square one day after the operation, just in absolute agony. Why? I guess it's because some kind of stress transfer effect. Like I was tensing when I was lifting, and that was having some transfer into the shoulder that I wasn't aware of at the time. I wasn't feeling any pain, but afterwards, good Lord, it was odd. And then today I went into the gym and, I had a much lighter weight and threw that on the leg press. And because it had been like a month, I'd forgotten my foot position. I'd forgotten my throw angle as well. And so it took a while to play around to find something that actually felt comfortable in my knees there. And then also to warm up and get to a proper depth. Yeah. Just to double down on what you said there. Don't immediately give up. There are many exercises you just need to find the right positioning, whether that's hands or feet or angle that you're pressing in. Yeah, absolutely. The next one is a fellow called Chris asked this one. He said, does it ever make sense to switch back to linear progression after doing one of the more advanced progression techniques? For example, I would imagine that during a cut, especially if it's not your first one, you're going to come to a time where you can't progress anymore. And so you're going to switch from linear progression, that means increasing the loads each session, to some form of periodization, some form of intermediate progression here.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, when I switch back to bulking, does it ever make sense to just go and try that beginner progression again, that linear progression, since you have more calories coming in and therefore more potential for strength gains?
So that's a really good question. I would say no, I still wouldn't switch back to linear progression, even if you're moving out of your cut and into your bulk. At this point, if you've been training for a while, whether you're cutting or bulking, once you're past that beginner stage, it's going to be really difficult to make consistent progress week after week. Like linear progression and, assuming you're going to be able to add weight every week works really well if you're new to lifting or you've been out of the gym for a while, but it just doesn't work past a certain strength point. Like you're going to have to spend more time with each weight before you can increase it, which is why we typically use double progression with a lot of our clients, where you basically have a repetition range instead of 5x5. You might have 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. And the idea is that you're going to pick a weight and keep using that weight until you've maxed out that rep range. So once you're getting 3 sets of 12, you would increase again, but it might take you a few weeks at each weight before you're moving up. I think
Can you
that
tell
works
me that
better
again?
for.
Can you explain that to
Yes.
me again? You're going to work up to you're doing 12 reps. What do you mean? Sorry.
So let's say we have 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps and we ask you to do it at an 8 RPE. So you
Yep.
want to get, your goal is to get 3 sets of 12, stopping about 2 reps short of failure. And once you do that in one session, the next workout is when you would want to increase the weight. And at that point, once you go up in weight, your sets might be like 11 reps and then 9 and then 7. Like it might drop off a little bit. And you might have to spend a few weeks at that same weight before you can build that weight back up to doing 3 sets of 12 again, at which point you would increase. But that just allows you to spend more time with each weight and gives you a range to aim for rather than the exact rep you should get per set. And I
the
think that
point of
works better for intermediate people. Yeah.
I see. And the point of that is that essentially we're not going to be able to make increases session to session. It's going to take far more time. And by the time that we're able to get, in this case, 12 reps with that load, we should be able to get 8 reps of the next incremental load.
Yes.
Why we have the range, right?
Yeah, that's why I do that. And you want to increase in whatever the smallest increment you can typically. Yeah. And then you're going to basically reset and stay in that rep range until you max it out again and then increase. And that's a cycle.
Gotcha. But it sounds to me like this fella is really expecting that when he gets back into his bulking phase, he's going to have far more energy and he's going to be able to increase the load session to session again.
He will have more energy. Yeah. And I find for clients and with myself, normally maybe for a few weeks, you're going to feel really good once your cut is done and you're back into eating more, but it doesn't last that long. And eventually, you really can only gain strength and muscle so quickly. It's just once you have a good baseline of strength and you've been lifting for a year or two, it's going to slow down quite a bit for most people.
Yep. I feel the same. And although, theoretically, I think this makes sense. I think when the rubber meets the road, yeah, people are just better off sticking with this double progression system and not trying to change things up. They can, but they're soon going to realize that they're not able to make the jump. It's a self-fixing problem here. Yeah. Great. All right. Let's see if there's another one that we can pick out here. Okay, here's a good one. This is from Philip, also related, so I'll ask it here. I'm currently in a cutting phase. Is it normal if my personal record lifts drop a little while losing weight?
Yes, very normal. It's common. I would expect that to happen. And there are a lot of reasons here. The longer you're in a deficit, you're eating less, like fewer calories than your body requires. You're just not going to have as much energy. Recovery is going to be a bit impacted. And then as you lose weight and as you're lighter, as you lose weight, a lot of your lifts are just going to decrease because you weigh less. You have less leverage. If it's something like the bench press, if you've lost a little bit of size on your chest, now the bar has to move further. If you're deadlifting, you have less weight to lean back with. So yeah, it's very common for your lifts to drop off a bit as you're losing weight, partially from weight loss and partially just from restricting your food and just running in this energy deficit for extended periods of time.
I'm going to play with this now and pretend I'm Philip. And Philip has read on Reddit that a good training program, you shouldn't be losing any strength, because big man 5959 said that he did not lose any strength when he was doing 531. For example, I'm just throwing out a random program here. What would you say in response to that?
I think we need a little more context. If this person is new to lifting or they've been out for a while, they might be able to make progress for the first few months of a cut, even if they haven't trained. Or if it's a new movement they haven't done in quite some time, you know, there's a lot of strength, especially if it's a movement you haven't done in a while. It's just relearning how to do it. Like you were saying with the leg press, like it takes a few sessions to get back into things. So if I add a new lift into someone's program halfway through a cut, they might make progress on it for a few weeks or even a month or two as they're getting used to it. But once your body's used to training without movement, it's going to be really difficult to keep gaining strength at a deficit. That's what I would.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just add, if I may, like this, just because one person said that they didn't, doesn't mean that number one, it's true. And number two, doesn't mean it's actually relevant to you. You want to be setting your expectations based on your individual circumstances, but also the averages. Don't look to the outliers and set your expectations, because you're going to set yourself up for disappointment here. And what you said about the individual circumstances is quite right, because, you know, we could change up someone's programming to have lower overall volume and then lower overall reps, even if we wanted to cheat a little further. And that will essentially be acting as a taper almost into meat prep, right? So you could cheat your way into keeping how much you're lifting, because you're then not, I say cheat because you're then not comparing apples to apples, right? Your programming has changed significantly, but that isn't what most people are going to be doing, nor should they be doing. Yeah, really, like, it's about getting your expectations in check, and you should be expecting to lose a little strength. That's not to say that you don't want to keep pushing and keep trying to maintain, but don't sacrifice your form for it, and don't be disappointed if it does happen, really. Are there any other mistakes that people make along these lines when they see themselves losing strength?
I would say just be careful with the intensity of each set. So we always will tell people you don't really want to train all the way to failure every session. It's very taxing on your body. It's hard to recover from. You're more likely to get hurt. You want to leave a few reps in the tank. I've seen people do this where they're so determined to hold on to strength that they've told me, like, oh, it used to be an RP8, now it's a 9 or 10. They just don't want to accept that the weight is going to go down a little bit. That's probably not a great idea, just for safety and recovery. Like, you don't want to do that. Like you said, you don't want to cheat your way into keeping the strength by changing some variable of the program. You still want to keep it the same.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. So let's say we've got 3 sets of 10. It is dumbbell chest presses. No, let's make it even nastier. Dumbbell shoulder presses with a fairly upright bench. And I think you can guess where I'm going with this. For someone, they've been doing first set RPE of 8. So this means they're leaving 2 reps in the tank. Second set, maybe 9. Third set, and maybe that might be their max. That's to failure for that one. And that's standard for them. And that's good. Now, using the same load each time. Now they're determined that they're going to be pressing the, I don't know, choose a number, 60-pound dumbbells, right? They're determined they're going to hold on to this because they've been trying to get these 60-pound dumbbells for so long, and they were so happy when they were able to pick up the 60s and do it. They're like, yeah, I get it. We get it, right? So then as the weeks go on with their cut, they switch from their bulk. It goes on. Let's do with the 60s. It's part of their ego now. They're like, yeah, I am a 60-pound overhead press. But it gets more and more difficult. So now that first set RPE becomes more of a 9. So instead of having 2 reps left in the tank for the first one, it's more like 1. That second set, they've got maybe 1, but it's actually to failure. And that third set, they're not going as deep, or the final rep or two, the left arm is slightly stronger than the right arm, and they can see that one going up and they're really straining, and it's looking a bit nasty, right? But they manage it. And the next week they manage it and they do the same. And then the week after, arbitrary timeframes here, but the week after, as they're struggling, really struggling to get it up, their left arm goes backwards because they lost balance. And they've just yanked their shoulder back because it was deep in their hand and they weren't able to release their hand from the dumbbell. And now they've wrecked their shoulder with a proper injury. All because they tried to hold on to those 60s when they really shouldn't have. They should have they should have reduced the load to the 55s. So don't be that person, is what I would say there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
That'll suck. Okay, raise your hand if you've done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Raise your hand if you've done that more than once.
Oh,
Yeah, I've done exactly that, and it was really not nice. I managed to catch it though. So as it went back, I dropped the dumbbell in my right arm. I stood up and twisted my body with my left arm, so I caught myself before it, tore my shoulder. Yeah, I was lucky there, but some people aren't. So just be careful. Choosing an extreme example there to really illustrate. Yeah. Great. Matt, thanks for coming on. Let's do this again in, I think, every couple of weeks, roughly. We're going to have either myself and you. Well, there'll be two of us between myself, yourself, and Coach Sam coming on. So yeah, if you do have any questions, reach out, Andy at redbody.com. And yeah, regardless, we'll be replying, but we may have your question featured here on the pod. All right. I'll catch you next time. Thank you, guys.